Hey, welcome back to Simple Truth. I'm trying to change up, my welcomes and openings and things like that. But it's so hard because I just get excited about getting to what we're getting to. Hey, we're in the book of First Samuel. We're talking about the story of David. I am beyond excited about this part because, first of all, it's practical, it's real. Second, it tells us a little bit about how God works. So last time we were talking about verse 6, and we were talking about this whole anointing process, right? Talking about this whole process that Samuel had, figured out in his head. He's like, hey, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this thing. The first guy who comes in, he looks good, I'm going to pick him, right? We talked about the fact that Samuel goes through all of the brothers that were gathered. All of them. They're all gathered. They all look good. They all look like they would be a perfect fit to be king, right? And God says, no, 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 no. And we talked about the fact that God says, hey, listen, man looks on the outside, I look at the inside. Now, let me elaborate a little bit on what is next, right? It says in verse 10, and Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. Samuel said to Jesse, the Lord has not chosen thee. I want you to grasp this concept. Jesse's sitting here. He is sitting in this moment where as a dad, he's about ready to be super excited, right? Super blessed, super favored. He's going to be the dad of the next king, right? And so he calls his sons. Now, here's the deal. He calls the sons that he thinks would be qualified for the job. These are the sons that he's invested in. These are the sons that have paid back on this investment of his. These are the sons that he deems worthy of being able to fulfill this position. Don't get caught up in this trap because it's a trap. And the enemy wants you and I to think that we have to be qualified in order to serve the Lord. And it is absolutely not true. Man has come up with this whole idea and we have bought into it. Are there uses for man's qualification? Absolutely. Does God work in these sometimes? Yes. But God does not qualify people because you think they're qualified. God does not give you a job like, oh, thank God you got through seminary, so now you can be a pastor. Now, God called you to be a pastor way before seminary. God doesn't say, oh, now you can be an engineer because you went to engineering school. No, God called you for that. He doesn't say, hey, now you can be a mom because you went and took a mom class. No, he called you to be a mom. Like, God calls you first, then he tends to educate. Sometimes that's through natural resources and things and processes that make sense to us. And sometimes that's not. Like right now, it isn't going to make a lot of sense. Jesse spent no time investing in the son that God was going to choose. So therefore, Jesse didn't think the son would be chosen. It is a trap for you and I to look around and try to decide who God's going to use. Try to decide that this person's qualified. Oh, look at them. They sing like an angel, so they should lead our worship. Yeah, well, you can sing like an angel and have a really rotten attitude, right? It's not about that. You can speak really well and be far away from God. You're just a disseminator of information, and you can do it really, really well. Right? You can put things together, but you do it in such a way that there's no love, there's no appreciation. One of the things that our church does that I love is called Sunshine Baskets. You're welcome to steal this idea because it was stolen, right? Sunshine Basket is occasionally there are people who have been sick or just going through a hard time and they need a pick-me-up. And so we go to the dollar store and we get dollar items, and not always dollar items, but we get items that are meaningful in nature but just kind of goofy in nature. Right? One time we bought a lady friend of ours a dog toy, and we got it for her to open up because it was for her dog. She couldn't get out. Right? And so we were trying to help out here, right? Sometimes we get all kinds of things, but we try to think of the person, be meaningful, but these are not expensive, I love you more than the moon gifts. These are, we love you, so we're going to give you something gifts, right? But you can only open one every single day. And if you do it right and you just kind of reach into your bag and you get one, you don't even know what you're going to open. And you get a gift, not because somebody wants to give you a gift, not because we love you and we want to encourage you, right? That's the whole idea. It's things that you don't expect, things that aren't like the norm, right? We didn't go out and go through a list of stuff. You're getting it not because you qualified, because we just want to encourage you and we want to love you. God works this way, right? And so Samuel, see this whole Samuel, Saul, Jesse, David, there are a lot of names, right? Samuel's standing there, and really, we know from the very beginning, Samuel would like this to be over pretty quick, right? He wants this to be over because he's anointing a king when there's already a king. That's a problem, right? And so he's going through this, and yep, this guy looks good, or yep, this guy, and God says, no, I have the perfect person. Do you know sometimes the perfect person, the perfect thing, the perfect answer to your prayer, it's not even in the same room as you. It's not on your property. It's not even been introduced to you. I've had prayers that have been answered, right, by God, and the answer is not even anywhere near me. If I told you some of the stories of how God has brought people into my life, right, and you follow where they went to get to me, you're like, how did I get here? Right? Have you ever been working next to somebody and you found out that they were born in Oklahoma or Texas or somewhere else, and you're like, how did you get to Western New York? How did you get there? Oh, I went via here and here and here and here and here. And you're like, what in the world is going on? Right? God has a plan. And God's plan for the nation of Israel is sitting out in a field watching sheep, not being prepared to be the next leader the way that people think, being prepared to be the next leader the way that God thinks. Let me challenge you with that. I pray that you let God encourage you and train you up to be the leader He wants you to be, not the leader other people want you to be. Sometimes that's going to be traditional in nature. God's got you going to traditional people, and you need to be able to do that. And sometimes God says, you know what? I got an untraditional path for you. And you just need to embrace that and need to be okay with that. Listen, here's the deal. This whole story is happening, and where's David? Yeah, he's the one that's out in a field somewhere. He has no idea this is happening. He doesn't even know what's going on. But it's going on. That's you and I. We don't even have a clue what God is doing. We don't know what's going on, but God's up in heaven talking about us. God's up in heaven planning for us. God's up in heaven moving heaven and earth and getting ready to use you. Yep, you. So here's a new phrase that I just got this week that I'm really excited about. That's an old phrase that probably was stolen from some business somewhere. But get ready for your launch. God is ready to launch you. David's about ready to be catapulted into a totally different world. And he has no clue, but God does. Hey, see you next time. Simple Truth.